Broncos fans just walking out. It's overtime. Why aren't they staying? And they just got bored. They just had enough.
Do you guys I wonder what's wrong with Russell Wilson? Like, why is he so bad?
I was watching the game yesterday, and you could blame it on the receivers, but it wasn't just the receivers. He was overthrowing and missing. It's either that he was never that good, or I think their communication is just really bad because a number of his receivers, like Judy was open a couple of times, Sutton was open. He just completely missed them.
No, he was good in Seattle.
Yeah, Jen, actually, before you say this, let me show this one and get your thoughts. Would you say, before you say, is it him again? Or would you say it's Russell Wilson? Who would you blame for this?
Well, that one last play, what's his name? TJ Hamler was wide open. So that's not the coach's fault. That's Wilson missed him. So, but I don't know. I mean, it can't be that Wilson wasn't good in Seattle. Wilson was a top 5 quarterback, I think 9 out of the 10 seasons that he was in Seattle. So the guy is good, but I don't know what happened. Maybe he hit the age wall and he's just no good anymore.
Yeah. I'm telling you, a lot of times, as KJ Hamler said, he could have literally walked in and he just completely missed him as well, too. But, man, the offense cannot keep going. Javonte Williams is injured. But on the Indianapolis side, Matt Ryan is okay. But at the same time, the wide receivers just are not getting separation. There's no tight end. And Jonathan Taylor is struggling. So it's a struggling offense.
Well, I mean, think about it. Their offense is entirely built around Jonathan Taylor, right? So the last couple of games, Jonathan Taylor has either been injured or he's out. And so you're now relying on these other players. The tight end, Mo Alley-Cox, who last week scored double digits in fantasy, he was completely – there was no points he scored this game. You know, you got Pittman, right? But who else – I mean, Alec Pierce actually did pretty well yesterday. Alec Pierce actually scored 10 points in fantasy. So I was surprised that he scored as many as he did.
Yeah, I actually sat Pittman in one league. Yeah, I don't think you can trust that offense right now. There's just not a lot of points to be had. So it's disappointing. You know, I think, it's really disappointing.
Well, whoever played their defenses on both sides, they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have Melvin Gordon, 15 rushes, 54 yards. Michael Boone, 7 carries, 38 yards. Sutton, 5 catches, 74 yards. The most disappointing is Jerry Jeudy at 3 catches, 53 yards. I mean, he just can't get anything there. And so hopefully a lot of times you're hoping Russell Wilson will get back, but he got sacked 4 times, intercepted twice yesterday.
I still think Judy's the best wide receiver in terms of talent. I love that group. But Sutton is clearly the number one. He's like the Tyler Lockett of the group. And I think that Jeudy could hopefully become more of the Metcalf of the group. But right now they haven't shown that potential.
Yeah. Jed, as we go through some of the stories in preparation for week 5, let me actually, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift remain out of practice. If you're playing daily fantasy league, are you starting Mr. Tight End again and having him blow up for 47 points?
TJ Hawkinson, yeah. I mean, it's not a bad play at all. You know, I think, as I said, that's the number 1 starting offense. And Jared Goff, too. If I'm playing daily, actually, Jared Goff is probably cheap. And so him and TJ Hawkins is probably going to be a little more expensive. Yeah. But you could probably get Goff pretty cheap. And that's not a bad play. I mean, he's going to have to throw the ball. So,
yeah. The other player, especially, I think my guess is Swift will sit out. We don't know about St. Brown, but if St. Brown sits out, Josh Reynolds had scored double figures in the last 2 weeks, and he's been the leading reception, the wide receiver for the Lions. And so I would play him if Amon-Ra St. Brown is out.
If you, who would you rather have, DeAndre Swift or Dameon Pierce?
Right now, I would take Pierce.
I tried to make that trade offer. I had Pierce sitting on my bench. I tried to trade for Swift, but the guy wouldn't bite.
Yeah.
My concern with Swift is that he tends to be injury prone, and you're always going to be sharing with Jamal Williams because he has shown himself to be a great back. So when you get to the red zone, Jamal Williams, even when Swift gets back, will always get the carries.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. We'll see. I've been trying to package folks. And the other one is I'm trying to move on from, what's his name? Kyle Pitts. I'm really Kyle
Oh,
Pitts.
Jed, don't give up so fast on Kyle Pitts.
I don't know. I'm getting like no points from him, so it's just been.
Well, okay. So last week I made a trade with Tommy for Jamal Williams. I gave Jamal Williams. I got Ezekiel Elliott. Right. Long term, I'm like thinking, oh, this might be a pretty good trade. He's dead weight on my bench, right? Because you don't want to drop him because he's a pretty decent running back. He'll get 9 to 15 points, but I don't want to play him either because he might get nothing for me. So I'm kind of stuck with him right now.
Yeah. And that was my problem with someone like Ezekiel Elliott, and that's why I was willing to trade him. Jamal Williams, if Swift is out, Jamal Williams will get me at least 18 to 20 points. And so a lot of times Ezekiel Elliott, I was always afraid to sit him because I said, what if he got a 67-yard or 116-yard and 1 touchdown? Then I'm going to be kicking myself, but he was just terrible. Hey, going back to Jed, going back to Pierce, right? He has now gotten last week 80% of your rushing yardage, and at the same time the rushing carries as well too. And so in some sense, Lovie Smith we were all concerned about him. Rex Burkhead was in week 1 getting majority share, and now here we are at 80% of all the rushing with Dameon Pierce.
Oh yeah, no, he's definitely a workhorse. I mean, he on the rankings, he's too low right now. They're not accounting for looking to the future. They're still looking at the first 4 weeks. So he's definitely, to me, a top 10 back. That's why I've been trying to use him because I don't need him. He's like my 3rd back. And so you should definitely trade for value, though. He's going to be a starting back for the rest of the season.
So which league do you have Pierce in?
In my work league.
Your work one, yeah.
In my work league, I sent this offer: Pierce and Darren Waller for Mark Andrews. And the guy
wait, 2 for 1? You did a 2 for 1?
I did a 2 for 1, and he wouldn't bite because I wanted Andrews because again, Darren Waller and Kyle Pitts are just like not performing. So
I would consider it. The only thing I would look at is who else you have, because the last thing I want is for you to have a stacked team with Mark Andrews. Because essentially you're giving away 2 players who aren't doing anything for you for 1 really good tight end, right? So that's what I would look at too.
Oh yeah, no, I'm in first place in that league. So
yeah.
I'm trading from a position of strength.
Can I just say, some of these people, I've been offering a couple of these trades. Some people just do not look at their trade requests. And I'm like, people, if you're going to be in this, you at least need to look at it once a week. Because if it's just sitting there, what's the point of you guys being part of this?
You know what I do is I always look at who does pickups. Like whoever does free agent pickups, those are the only people I trade with because I know that they at least look.
Yeah. And it just takes people forever to look at it. So yeah, totally understand. Okay, let me ask you a quick question. Jamal Williams. If I was to trade Jamal Williams right now at the top, what do you think of that? Is that a smart move? Do you think people will bite if we start trading Jamal Williams? Or do you think people are smarter than that and say, man, he's only going to be a couple of weeks before DeAndre Swift comes back?
I mean, I personally would trade him. Like you're trading him at the height of his value. It's just like buying stocks. You want to buy low, sell high. So that's the perfect timing is to sell now. So when his value is the most. You want to catch someone who basically is desperate for the next couple of weeks. They need to win. So that I think that's what I would do too. Is trade now.
Me too. I would do the same thing.
Yep. All right, Jim, let's go to the next one. David Montgomery returns to practice. If he plays this week, are you playing Khalil Herbert or David Montgomery?
I think I would still play Khalil Herbert. He's got the last couple of weeks he's had over 100 total yards. I think he's still going to be the one that they lean on, even though Montgomery comes back.
Jed, Matt Canada, I don't think you'll see a drastic difference in play calls with Penny Pickett. Agree, disagree?
Oh, that's interesting. That might be true, but I'm way more high on George Pickens now. I'm actually playing him in at least one league. So even though, again, if you look at him, there'll be, probably less than 10% of the people are starting him. But I think you're going to see a nice pickup from Pickens. They already showed a nice connection in preseason. So I'm thinking that's going to continue. Yeah.
Did you know that they were speculating that Deontay Johnson will be the number 2 wide receiver by the end of the year now that Pickens is in? And you're right. I still see him in some of the waiver wires, and I'm trying to pick him up as much as I can.
Yeah, he still so far has the best catch of the season. That one-handed catch was insane.
Jim, if you look at Najee Harris, I know you have him over at Dynasty. Number one, is he overrated? And number two, if someone offered you like 2 or 3 players for Najee Harris, would you trade him?
I think so, but I also want to see what's going to happen now that Kenny Pickett, right? Because I think with Trubisky, they just couldn't get any offense going. And I think with Pickett and his legs and his arm, I think it may open up more opportunities for Najee Harris, for Pickens, and some of these other players. Who is it? The tight end, Pat Freiermuth, right? He's on a lot of waiver wires. I mean, he's actually, if you need a tight end backup, he actually might be pretty good.
Yep. Jed, Steelers are playing the Buffalo Bills. Terrible matchup for his first start. What are you anticipating? Look, a lot of times Josh Allen will do well. Gabe Davis, do you think he's going to come back this week?
Yeah, I actually like Pittsburgh in this because I don't know that they'll win. They're a 14-point underdog. I just don't see that. I think Pittsburgh is going to play better than that. I think the team, when you bring in a new quarterback, they kind of rally. There's a little bit more juice, a little bit more energy. And so I think this is going to be closer than people think. And Buffalo, as good as they've been, they are not as dominant as that first game out of the season. They've shown that they can be beaten. And so I think Pittsburgh could actually score some points here. So I would play all your Steelers. I would not hold back.
Are you still high on Gabe Davis, though?
Yeah, I think, well, actually, I like McKenzie better. I think McKenzie is the guy that I've been excited about. And so, but it's still a toss-up between both of those guys. You're not playing those more than a flex at this point.
My only argument is the last couple of weeks, right? 2 weeks ago when they were playing Miami, they said that they were just tired. Like they could not keep going. Last week, I think because of some of the wet conditions, you saw there were a lot of drops. There wasn't much going on with the Buffalo Bills. So I want to give them one more week. I think this week will be a pretty good indicator as to where Gabe Davis is going to go. Because right now, everything's running through Stephon Diggs.
I'll tell you one thing. I'm so desperate at tight end. I'm playing Dawson Knox over Kyle Pitts.
Oh, you know what? I made the change too. I'm playing Will Dissly over Kyle Pitts because Disley's had double-digit fantasy points. But you're right. Like because here's the other thing. They're playing Tampa Bay this week. And Tampa's got a good defense, right? And I was like, this is not the week that you want to risk going after a wide receiver or going after Kyle Pitts.
Jim, speaking of Will Dissly, a lot of times DK Metcalf knew Geno Smith would be great based on what he did last year. They're playing Tampa Bay. Would you start a Geno Smith against a Tampa Bay defense?
I don't know if Tampa Bay, but I've been looking at him on waiver wires, right? Last week, he scored 30-something fantasy points. The week before that, he scored 19 fantasy points. I feel like he's gotten into a pretty good rhythm with both Metcalf as well as Tyler Lockett. Rashad Penny is coming along. So I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. Would you want to pick up a Geno Smith versus a Jared Goff? And right now, I would go for Goff before I pick up a Geno Smith.
And Jim, actually, forgive me. They are not playing Tampa Bay. The Seattle Seahawks are playing the New Orleans Saints.
Oh, I would consider it. I would seriously consider it. But Saints still have a pretty good offense or defense.
Yeah. Jed, I'm telling you, Geno Smith, if he was playing out there, he's playing the New Orleans Saints, which has a pretty good defense. If you have Aaron Rodgers sitting on your bench, is it Jared Goff? Is it Aaron Rodgers or is it Geno Smith?
No, I like Jared Goff of that group we were just talking about. Still the number one offense. Well, actually Aaron Rodgers too. No, I still think of that group. Geno is at the bottom of that group.
You got Rashad Penny. Is he someone you're starting every single week as a running back now?
Only if I'm desperate. I don't think Penny is a number one. He's maybe a number two. I think probably is a pretty good number two. But if Seattle is they're one of those teams. It's going to be dependent on if they are competitive. If it's a team you feel like they can be competitive, then Rashad Penny is definitely someone you want to play. But if it's someone you're thinking they're going to be throwing the ball all day, then no, that's not the guy that I want in there.
Someone dropped him in our our dynasty league.
No, I wouldn't drop him. I would have him on my bench.
I was actually surprised someone dropped him in our dynasty leagues. I mean, someone picked him up pretty fast, but I was surprised he got dropped.
Yeah.
Now, Jim, Tyler Lockett, he may be appearing on some waivers with some players. Last week, he had 6 catches, 91 yards. 2 weeks ago, he had 9 catches, 107 yards. What do you think of a Tyler Lockett? If you did bring him, are you going to play him in the flex position?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's a couple other wide receivers I'm looking at, and I've never been the biggest Tyler Lockett fan, but I mean, even based off of this, I think Geno Smith is having a really good year. And part of it is I wonder if they're just motivated to show that they are a better team without Russell Wilson.
Yeah. On the other end, Jed, let me ask you, we're going to start Olave. He's been very, very good. Michael Thomas, is he someone that you're dropping at all? And then also Kamara, what is your situation? Are you playing him this week at all?
Yeah, that Kamara is back, but I just wonder how much are they going to go full tilt with him? Yeah, I think you can drop Thomas personally, or I would say if you have the option, I mean, Olave is the guy that I want out of those two, and that's kind of what we thought would happen. So week 5, basically, remember, folks, we said that the first 2 to 3 weeks with rookies, they always take their time, and then really it's like around week 4, week 5, you start to see their usage turn. And so I think Olave is where they're going to go. And Thomas, remember, he is older too, so even if you were holding on to Thomas towards the back half of the season, you're going to expect him to start to fade. So I think Olave is definitely the guy to have.
Yeah. By the way, Taysom Hill has been starting for me at tight end in a lot of leagues. He actually got me 9 points last week. He did pretty well. He ran in for a touchdown here.
I know. I saw Tommy pick him up Sunday morning. He picked him up in like 2 or 3 leagues, and I was like, it's because he needs a tight end. But they were smart. But I do think Kamara is going to end up playing this week, which will limit how much they use Taysom Hill at the running back position. But if he ever becomes quarterback, right? If Andy Dalton gets injured or if they decide to make a switch, that's a good play right there.
Yeah. Hey, I'm hoping a lot of times when I start him, Andy Dalton will somehow or another be out for a half or a play or a couple plays, and in comes Taysom Hill. He throws a pass, runs for a pass, and there's my day right there.
Yeah. The only thing is it's a risk because, I mean, and part of it is sometimes if you look at these projections, right, like Pickens is projected to score only 5 points. Taysom Hill is only projected to score 4 points. And part of it is sometimes you're looking at it and you're fearful, but I think they're good plays.
Jed, one more thing. I want to look at Miami Dolphins. Teddy Bridgewater will be starting for Tua. What are you expecting out of a Jalen Waddle? What are you expecting out of Raheem Mostert? What are you expecting out of Tyreek Hill?
It was very encouraging last week because Tyreek Hill's usage rate and production was pretty much the same. And so I have Tyreek Hill, as you guys know. I'm not worried about him at all. Waddle, I think you have to be a little bit careful. Like, he's the one that I'm just not sure what's going to happen there because we know Bridgewater is not the same as Tua, as much as they're kind of similar in that they both don't have great deep balls, but I think Bridgewater is even more limited in that regard. So, but I think you just got to wait and see. I mean, but like I said, with Hill, I'm not pulling him back in any way. I'm still playing him.
Jay, I know you love your betting lines. 3.5 against the New York Jets. You taking the Jets, or are you taking the Miami Dolphins?
Oh no, I'm taking the Dolphins in this one.
Yeah. All right. Let me ask you a quick question. Jim, I'm going to start off with you. If we had to redraft this one more time at the beginning of the year, and the top 3 was Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, and you could just say either Cooper Kupp or Austin Eckler. If you had to pick all these 3 again, who would go as your number 1 draft pick?
I think right now, if I were to redraft, I would pick Cooper Kupp. That's who I would pick.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because, I mean, here's for sure it's not McCaffrey, right? Because he's not done anything. Yeah. Jonathan Taylor, maybe, but based off of his production purely for the first half, I would go with Cooper Kupp. I mean, look at the volume that guy's gotten every week.
I was going to say Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley has been really solid. So I don't know.
No, the only thing about Saquon Barkley is I feel like he's still, like he's still an unknown. Tomorrow he could be injured and you've lost him. So that's the problem with Saquon, I feel.
Yeah. Well, honestly, Jonathan Taylor, he's still look. My concern with Jonathan Taylor is not short term. I still would pick him at number 1 because he's still getting the majority of the carries. The offense is built around him. Now, the only thing that you're concerned about long term, if he was in your dynasty league, they are just working him like a workhorse, and so a couple of years from now, he's gonna be like a Todd Gurley, and he's just gonna be old and slow. But right now, I'm still picking Jonathan Taylor as my number 1 draft pick. Yeah. All right, next one. Jed, speaking of Saquon Barkley, if you had to pick your most surprising NFL fantasy football player right now, who would it be? Would it be Saquon Barkley or would it be someone else?
So Saquon is a close second for me. And like I said, someone who I think anyone who took a chance on him, kudos. You probably got him around 10, 11, 12. He's been top 3. So I think that's a really good choice. But I think the clear winner for me has to be James Robinson. Like James Robinson, you got really, really cheap, and he's producing top 10 numbers. And Jacksonville as a whole has to be the surprise team of the first half of the season so far. They are a productive team, and there is definitely fantasy points to be had. So I'm going to say James Robinson.
Yeah, you know what? I like James Robinson, but I also think that where Saquon was drafted, you're getting almost a number 1 stud running back, right? For where he's gotten and what you paid for. I actually went back the other day to go back to our auction records and to see how much people bid on certain players. Saquon went cheap. J.K. Dobbins went cheap. Marquise Brown went cheap. James Robinson went dirt cheap. So it's interesting how you could have gotten your team could be in first place if you used barely nothing on some of these surprising players this year.
Oh, I had James Robinson for $1. Stupid me, then dropped him, but nobody wanted James Robinson. I had him for $1.
Yeah. I'm seriously rethinking. I was just driving in today thinking about this. I was talking about the heavy on the wide receivers and then really kind of finding a couple bench players for running backs. That actually, given where we're at with running backs now, that actually might be a pretty good strategy, because look at this year. You've got all these running backs who are injured. You could have picked up some really decent, even Josh Jacobs, right? You could have gotten him in the later rounds and be in first place right now.
Yeah. My surprising player, I'm not sure what you guys think, is Chris Olave. Look, I love Saquon Barkley. I love James Robinson. Chris Olave, number 1 wide receiver with the New Orleans Saints. Last week, he had 67 yards, 1 touchdown. The week before that, he had 147 yards and then 80 yards. He has been the offense with Kamara struggling. They have no tight end, and Michael Thomas struggling. Chris Olave carries the team. And in some sense, look, they have a struggling record, but at the same time, he has been all-pro.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to the next one here. Jim, I'm going to start off with you first. For me, a lot of times it's a Dalvin Cook. Who is the most disappointing so far in fantasy football for you?
Well, Dalvin Cook, I think, is pretty high up there for me. And part of it is just because I went hard after Jamar Chase. I should have just gone after Justin Jefferson, paid a little bit more. But Jamar Chase has really done nothing for me. He's been targeted, so the target isn't there. He's just not catching the balls. And he's not catching the balls, especially in the red zone. So Jamar Chase is the person that I've been really most disappointed by.
Yeah, I would say for me, it's Kyle Pitts. That's a guy who you're expecting to be a top 3 tight end, and he has not even produced top 15. I think he's like maybe top 20 at this point. So Pitts is the one and just Atlanta in general, I'm pretty disappointed in what's happening there. Although I do like Drake London a lot. I think Drake London is a real find.
Well, so here's why I would keep a Kyle Pitts, Jed. You never know. Desmond Ridder is going to come in for a Marcus Mariota soon. And Desmond Ridder might need a safety valve with his tight end. And especially now with Cordell Patterson out, they might target or they might try to get the ball into Pitts and Drake London's hands even more.
I'm definitely not dropping him. I'm not. So no one out there suggests that I'm just putting him on my bench. Kyle Pitts is definitely not someone you're going to drop, but I'm willing to actually not play both him and Darren Waller. I'm willing to not play them and wait and see until they pick it up a little bit.
Who's worse, Waller or Pitts in your mind?
I think probably Waller, actually, because Waller has a decent quarterback too. I don't know what's going on in Raiderland. Everyone expected with Devontae Adams, it would really take off. And they've just been, they lost their first 3 games. I just don't understand what happened.
Yeah.
So that I would say Waller's probably been more disappointing.
Yeah. Jed, actually, I would probably argue a lot of times. I actually thought Devontae Adams was a huge disappointment this year.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, look, for the position that he was drafted, either the end of the first round, beginning of the second round, Look at his stats: 101 yards last week, 36 yards, and then 12 yards. Now he got 1 touchdowns in both of those guys. They have a 1-3 record. We knew he was just going to struggle in Las Vegas without Aaron Rodgers, but he really has struggled under David Carr.
Yeah, it's surprising. I think, again, it just shows you that offensive scheme and coaching is almost as important as talent. I mean, if you have, because I still think Adams has crazy talent. Same with Kyle Pitts. But if you can't figure out how to scheme and the defense is taking those guys away and putting double teams, then, I mean, you're just in trouble. Like, that person's never going to get open.
For instance, a lot of times you look at Russell Wilson. Is it because of Pete Carroll? Because now we're seeing Geno Smith do really, really well. Is Pete Carroll doing something better? I mean, Russell Wilson is a pretty all-pro quarterback, but is he as good as we were led to believe under the Pete Carroll system?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, again, sometimes the system is just perfect for the player. And so you got to look for that.
I also think offensive line is such a big factor
Yeah.
that people often overlook, right? Like if you look at Las Vegas, if you look at Denver. Yesterday, Russell Wilson, yeah, he missed a bunch of people, but he kept getting sacked, right? Whereas if you look at Dallas, who's got one of the number one and number 2 offensive lines in the NFL, whether it's Dak Prescott or Cooper Rush, they're still, they're in what? They're battling for first place this week. So I think the line and scheming really does make a difference.
More so, I think I will argue in terms of line, not as much Dallas. You're seeing it over in Jacksonville right now. You see Trevor Lawrence having a lot more time to throw. And so a lot of times the Christian Kirk is opening up the running lane for James Robinson. And so that has gone really well.
Yeah. Jed, I don't want to see James Robinson get injured, but I really would like to see Travis Etienne become because he's just sitting there right now doing nothing for me.
Yeah, no, I've got Etienne in 2 teams, and he's been a disappointment too because I drafted him a lot of leagues. I drafted him in the 2nd round or the 3rd round, so you're definitely not getting the production. But you can't drop him. You cannot drop an Etienne because, like you said, it's just one.
He's got so much potential. If Robinson goes down tomorrow, I think he's at least a 15 to 20 point back.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go through a couple of starter sits as we wrap up our time here. Jed, I'll start with you. If you had to pick a Tyler Algier over in Atlanta, or you play a Cam Akers, who are you playing?
I know who you're playing. You're playing Cam Akers.
Cam Akers.
Yeah, I might pick Algier. Actually, I think. I don't know. That Atlanta team is just so flaky. Yeah, I think I maybe would try with Algier, but Cam Akers is getting the carry, so that's been the encouraging part. Is like the team is giving him the carries, but he's not doing anything with it.
Yeah. My only hesitation this week about Algier, I like him over a Cam Akers, but they're playing Tampa Bay, and so I was like, do you really want to start an Algier, a rookie running back, against the Tampa Bay defense?
Yeah. And Jim, I think a lot of times I know what this answer is, but are you playing Kyle Pitts? Are you staying with him, or you're playing Gerald Everett?
I'm gonna play Gerald Everett. I think this week, especially because of Tampa Bay, I'm gonna watch Kyle Pitts score a lot this week.
Yeah.
But I'm switching towards Gerald Everett this week.
Jim, let me go to another one with you. Robert Woods or Devin Duvernay?
I'll go with Robert Woods. Who is it?
Treylon Burke.
Yeah. He got injured. He's placed in IR, right? Robert Woods. I don't think Tannehill is the best quarterback right now, but he's at least consistent, right? So if you're looking for a 10 to 15 points from a wide receiver, I think you would get that from Robert Woods.
Jed, a huge disappointment has been Terry McLaurin. Are you playing Terry McLaurin, or are you going to go with Jahan Dotson?
I play McLaurin over Dotson. Yeah, still think talent's got to win out, and I do think Wentz. He's a matchup dependent quarterback. I think the whole offense is matchup dependent. And so who are they playing this weekend again?
That I don't know.
Yeah, I can find out because I've been trying to decide whether or not who I should play.
I was just looking at that real quick. So Washington is playing.
They're playing Tennessee.
See, that's interesting. Yeah. So I would play. I'd put him in this weekend.
Yeah, Jim. If you were stuck, and this is not any good matchup, Darnell Mooney or Allen Robinson?
I take a chance on Mooney because at least he's somewhat trending up. Robinson is just pretty much. Outside of Kupp and Higbee, you're not You're not seeing Robinson, even though they try to target him all the time.
Jed, flex. Devin Singletary with the Buffalo Bills or Devontae Parker with the New England Patriots?
Who was the first one again?
Devin Singletary.
Oh, you guys know I like Parker. Yeah, I think I'd probably take Parker.
Yep. Good. Jim, Garrett Wilson or Adam Thielen?
You know, I would take a chance on Garrett Wilson. Yeah, I mean, last week he didn't do much, but Zach Wilson, I think, is a decent quarterback. There's no way these guys can keep relying on Corey Davis. So I'll go for Garrett Wilson.
Speaking of that, Jed, Corey Davis or Julio Jones?
Oh, I've given up on Julio. I think just his age too much, and then and I like Corey Davis actually. He's been coming on. Don't skip out on the Jets. Although I like the running back, Brees Hall.
Brees Hall, yeah.
I think Brees Hall is not a bad pickup either. But no, I'd play Corey Davis.
Really? I think Garrett Wilson's going to be the number one wide receiver. There's no way they're going to let such a good wide receiver like that not get the receptions.
Jim, Antonio Gibson or Raheem Mostert?
Raheem Mostert. Who is it? Who's that guy that's coming back?
Brian Robinson.
Yeah,
he's coming back. So I think he's going to eat into Antonio Gibson's carries.
Got it. Jed, Khalil Herbert or you're going to try George Pickens?
Well, I mean, I think Herbert, just given that he's a running back, I think that's probably a better option.
But in a few weeks, you're going to go for George Pickens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm playing Pickens. I like him, but he's still a wide receiver. It's tough. It's tough to get catches versus handing the ball to you.
Jim, Pat Freiermuth, or the last one, or Dalton Schultz?
I'll go with Dalton Schultz. I think I think he needed to get his legs under him last week, but I still think he's a great tight end, and I think Cooper Rush is doing really well.
Got it. Very good. Any lasting thoughts before we wrap up? And we'll probably get together. I think Jimmy's out in Nairobi, and so it will probably be me and you here, Jed, on Wednesday.
All right. Sounds good.
Unless I call in from Kenya, but I don't even know what the reception is right there. Oh, hey, here's my last thing. I don't know if this is the same in Chicago, but all over Phoenix, there's this craze for the adult Happy Meals in McDonald's.
Oh yeah, McDonald's.
Right,
yeah.
like they've been so. I don't know if you saw. I saw an episode. I saw a news segment today about how the McDonald's people are saying this has just been nuts, right? Because everybody's coming in, they're ordering all of these Happy Meals. They're using their 50% off coupon off their app, and they're just flooded with requests right now.
What do you get in this adult Happy Meal?
So instead of a burger, you get so it's essentially a throwback, right? So you get Grimace, you get Hamburglar, you get those toys, and then you get either Big Mac or like I think Chicken McNuggets. But they said this is what they said. They said a lot of people are doing it because they think that these
the box
figures are going to be collectibles.
Yeah, the box and the collectibles. Yeah.
Right, so that's why they're getting it. Like yesterday, they were showing in Phoenix here. Somebody walked in and bought 50 of them.
They're ugly though. I don't like them, so I don't know if they're going to be that collectible.
Yeah, I mean, they have 4 eyes. So yeah, 3 eyes or 4 eyes. I don't even know.
If they come up with like a better toy, I might be interested. No, for me, the non-football thing I've been watching is all the game clips of Victor Wembanyama, or however you say his last name.
The number one draft pick next
number
year.
one draft pick next year out of France. That guy is legit.
That guy is good.
Oh, he's legit. Yeah. He looks, when you watch him play, he is so smooth. And to be able to so he played G League talent. So he was playing against G Leaguers as an 18-year-old, and he put up 37 points. Yeah, I mean, this guy is the real deal.
They said he's Kevin Durant, but bigger and can rebound and shoot better than him.
I would probably say in our next year's draft for keeper, there will be a bid out war for him.
Yeah, you probably have to spend like $200, like spend your whole thing to get him. But I think it might work. I was thinking about, you guys know I collect cards too, and that's one rookie card that I'm.
Oh yeah, that you're going to go hard for. Yeah.
All right, here's the one thing I was trying to figure out a lot of times is if you were in the snake draft, right? How high would you pick him up if this was a keeper league and you snaked around? How high would you pick him up? Would it be the second round or even the first?
Oh no, number one. I'd pick him number
You would
one.
you pick him over
Oh, for sure. For
totally.
sure.
Yeah.
Like no question, he would be number one.
over Jokic, over Giannis and all those guys like that?
Oh, well, in a keeper league, I'm assuming those guys are all gone. They're
Oh
already
no,
picked.
you're just beginning. You're just
You're
beginning.
just starting.
Yeah. No, I would do it. I would pick him up pretty high. Yeah.
Yeah, no, if you're just starting, no, I'm not picking him over Luca, for example. Luca is definitely, I'd pick Luca over him.
It's a generational talent, Jed.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
he's not proven. Luca is proven.
Look, they said this about Zion Williamson. They said Zion Williamson was a generational talent. He is still yet to see what a generational talent is.
Yeah.
LeBron James is a generational talent.
Yeah, there's probably I would say there's probably like 5 people that I would pick ahead of him, but he would be in the top 10. He would be in the first round.
Did you hear what Adam Silver said in Vegas the other day?
Oh yeah, they said teams better not tank.
Yeah, because they like you teams better not tank to get this guy.
Yeah, no, I can see it. I think it's worth it. And to me, the team, if Oklahoma City gets him, that team is going to be insane.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, think about it. They who was it? One of those ESPN reporters, the business guy said, whoever gets him, their value already automatically escalates by $500 million, partly because of the attendance numbers and all of the jerseys they can sell. So that's why these teams want him, because of the money aspect too.
And you know who's going to suck if they actually do get him? Utah Jazz. If he went to the Utah Jazz, that's, oh my gosh, it's going to be so boring.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, but you know who's not going to get him? The Chicago Bulls will not get him.
Oh, we won't be last. We're going to be playing in the middle of we'll be in the middle of the pack.
That's my frustration with the Bulls. They're never very, very good, but they're good enough just to get into the play-in game and then not to get home field advantage in the playoffs and then to lose in the first round. That's the Bulls right there.
By the way, okay, look at really fast. Look at is it one of the ESPN guys? One of the early drafts for next year. They have the Bears taking the Alabama quarterback.
Oh, interesting.
That's their projection. I mean, it's early, right? But they have the Bears projected to pick up a new quarterback.
Yeah, very interesting.
All right, we all got to go to work. So
good
I'll see
seeing
you next week.